April 10th in history. In 1583, in the prosperous Dutch city of Delft, a child was born into a world of warring empires and lawless seas. Hugo Grotius became a prodigious scholar who wrote Mare Liberum and De Jure Belli ac Pacis, declaring that natural law governs all nations equally. Grotius's ideas became the bedrock of international law, diplomacy, and human rights, a legacy shaping treaties and courts to this very day. In 1606, England's King James I sought to expand his empire westward. Wealthy merchants and nobles eyed the vast, uncharted eastern coast of North America with ambition. On April 10th, King James I signed the First Charter of Virginia, creating 2 joint stock companies authorized to establish English colonies along North America's Atlantic coast. The London Company's charter led directly to Jamestown in 1607, the first permanent English settlement in America, planting the seed of what would become the United States. In 1815, Mount Tambora loomed over the island of Sumbawa in the Dutch East Indies, a towering volcano that had rumbled for months, unnerving villagers across the archipelago. On April 10th, Tambora exploded with catastrophic force, the loudest sound in recorded history, heard 2,000 miles away, obliterating the mountaintop and burying entire kingdoms in ash and pyroclastic flows. The eruption choked the atmosphere with sulfur, triggering the year without a summer in 1816. Harvests failed worldwide, triggering famine, mass migration, and shaping the modern world. In 1865, the American Civil War neared its end. At Appomattox, Virginia, a weary Confederate army faced the weight of 4 brutal years of conflict. On April 10th, General Lee penned General Order No. 9, a farewell praising his soldiers' valor and urging them to return home peacefully and with honor. Lee's farewell effectively ended the Civil War. His call for peace helped prevent guerrilla warfare and began the long, painful road to national reconciliation. In 1868, British forces marched deep into the highlands of Ethiopia, launching a daring expedition to rescue hostages held by Emperor Tewodros II at his mountain fortress. On April 10th, Napier's forces stormed Magdala. Facing defeat, Emperor Tewodros chose death over surrender, firing the very pistol Queen Victoria had gifted him. The freed hostages returned to Britain as heroes. The battle announced British imperial reach across Africa and made Tewodros a tragic symbol of African resistance. In 1912, the RMS Titanic, the world's largest, most luxurious ocean liner, departed Southampton, England, bound for New York City with 2,224 souls aboard. 4 days into her maiden voyage, just before midnight on April 14th, Titanic struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic. She sank in under 3 hours, claiming over 1,500 lives. The disaster reshaped maritime law forever, mandating enough lifeboats for all and 24-hour radio watches. Titanic endures as history's most haunting symbol of human hubris. In 1919, Mexico burned with revolution. Emiliano Zapata led peasant armies across Morelos, demanding land and liberty for the poor. Lured by a false ally's promise, Zapata rode into Hacienda San Juan Chinameca. Government soldiers ambushed and killed him on April 10th. Zapata's death made him immortal. His cry of Tierra y Libertad echoes through Mexico's identity, inspiring land reform and resistance for generations. In 1925, New York City glittered with jazz-age excess. America was riding a wave of prosperity, glamour, and restless ambition. On April 10th, Charles Scribner's Sons published The Great Gatsby, Fitzgerald's Portrait of Wealth, Obsession, and The Hollow American Dream. Though initially overlooked, Gatsby became America's defining novel, a timeless lens on class, illusion, and the dream's dark side. In 1932, Germany's Weimar Republic teetered on the edge. Economic collapse and political chaos fueled the rise of radical movements threatening democracy itself. On April 10th, aging war hero Paul von Hindenburg defeated Adolf Hitler, winning 53% of the vote. Yet Hitler's 37% stunned the world, revealing the Nazi Party's terrifying mass appeal. Hindenburg won, but the warning went unheeded. Within a year, he appointed Hitler chancellor, and democracy in Germany was finished. In 1970, 4 young men from Liverpool had transformed music forever. But behind the scenes, the Beatles were fracturing under tension, grief, and competing visions. On April 10th, press copies of McCartney's solo album arrived with a self-written Q&A inside. His answers were blunt. He was leaving the Beatles. The world stopped. The breakup ended a decade that redefined popular culture. Each Beatle went solo, but the band's shadow never faded. Their music still sells millions every year. In 1971, the Cold War divided East and West. China and America had not spoken officially in over 20 years, locked in deep mutual suspicion. American ping-pong players stepped onto Chinese soil, welcomed by cheering crowds. The first U.S. citizens officially invited to China since 1949 had arrived with paddles, not weapons. That small game opened an enormous door. Nixon visited China in 1972, reshaping global politics and proving diplomacy can begin anywhere, even a ping-pong table. In 1972, the Cold War cast a long shadow over humanity. Nations held vast arsenals of biological weapons, silent, invisible killers capable of mass destruction. On April 10th, diplomats in 3 capitals simultaneously signed the Biological Weapons Convention, the first treaty ever to ban an entire class of weapons of mass destruction. The BWC set a global precedent that some weapons are simply too terrible to exist. Today, over 180 nations are bound by its principles, making biological warfare internationally condemned. In 2019, scientists around the world united for an extraordinary mission to photograph the unseeable. 8 radio telescopes across 4 continents locked onto galaxy M87, 55 million light-years away. On April 10th, the Event Horizon Telescope collaboration revealed it, a fiery orange ring of superheated gas encircling a perfect dark void, the shadow of a supermassive black hole. The image confirmed Einstein's general relativity and proved black holes are real, visible structures. It became one of humanity's most iconic scientific achievements, a portrait of the universe's most extreme object.